So today we're going to start off with some cross-legged work. So get yourself to a wall and also grab a relatively solid brick. And we're going to start off with the right leg in front in a cross-legged position. And we want to be a little bit away from the wall because we will get the brick and we're going to place it more or less in the center of the back like so. Now, it's a bit subjective, so I think also to think of as where you personally feel you need a little bit of opening. So maybe you could have that up a little bit higher if you feel that the overall scapular area needs to be open, or maybe even just a little bit lower. For me, it's more the kind of diaphragm area that I need to personally work on. So it's a little bit subjective. So as you come back to this exercise, maybe you can trial and test a little bit. What you do want though is to make sure that more or less the beginnings of the buttocks are under the brick. You don't want to be sliding out like this, because unfortunately if we do that, the tendency is to collapse the solar plexus as per normal. So we want to try and make sure, just going to remove this because I have altered my yoga mat a bit. So you're really wanting the buttocks a little bit under the brick, and that will allow you to really wonderfully open the solar plexus area here. And we're just going to spend a moment like so. And maybe put the fronts of your hands on your thighs. When you breathe out, just feel the descent of the weight coming into your buttocks. So flex your feet, separate the toes, and you'll feel automatically that there's a difference now in the hips. The hips are a lot more compact and stable. And keep on working those feet. And allow the pressure of the brick to open up the mid to upper spine. And then we will put our hands out to the side like so. So we're going to create 90 degrees between upper arm and lower arm. Elbows will be in line with our shoulders. And then on the next exhalation, we're going to start to bring those elbows behind, but without, as I said before, sliding the buttocks in front. So keep the buttocks well and truly under that brick, which will mean paying attention to the lower abdomen, which should be moving in towards the spine. And as you start to move the hands, the forearms, the elbows back towards the wall, you're going to feel a wonderful extension in all directions of the chest, the mid to upper torso area. So don't resist that extension. Breathe and breathe out of that whole area that's being worked. And remember to keep your hands in line with your elbows. And then you can just drop your hands back onto the thighs, the fronts of the hands just heavily down onto the thighs. Keep on working the feet. And feel the difference that arm work has created in the shoulder area. And one more time. So bring the forearms and the hands and the elbows back as far as you can, but please make sure that the hands are in a straight line with the elbows. So a lot of us tend to just bring the elbows back, leaving the hands forward. We really want to get them as much in alignment as we possibly can. Breathing out. Okay, and then just bringing your hands down, removing the brick, stretching for a moment the legs in Dandasana. Remembering, of course, if this stretch is very difficult, then we can just bend the legs a little bit. So long as the feet are still flexing, there's not really a problem. We just spend a moment like so. And then we treat the other side. So this time it's the left leg in front. And then we can reinsert the brick. And make sure you're not sliding out too much. Feel how the pressure of the brick really opens up the chest area. So really start to breathe into this entire three-dimensional extension. Put your hands on your thighs. Remember, flex your feet, create space between the toes. And then, like the last time, you can simply form 90-degree angle between the upper and lower arm, both arms. And then you can start to bring back the elbows, the forearms, the hands. And you'll note that the chest inevitably needs to be pushed forward. But you need to counteract that by bringing the lower abdomen in towards your spine. And then, as per normal, don't restrict at any point the breathing. Try and keep the breathing as normal as possible. And then on the next exhalation, just bring your hands down a moment onto the thighs and have a bit of a break. Feel the reaction still coursing throughout your torso. This is strong stuff. So the post-work observation of your body is quite important. And one more time. So on the next exhalation, do what you can. And maybe you can bring the forearms completely back to lean against the walls. Whatever your point, just feel the benefits emerging in your torso as a result of this exercise. And remember, the more the chest comes forward, the more you need to respond to that by bringing in towards the spine, the lower abdomen. And then you can just bring the fronts of your hands down towards your thighs. Remove the brick, and then one more time, Dandasana. Flex your feet, energize the leg. Feel the feet and legs disappear into the hips. And recreate the sensation in the torso that we had when the brick was helping us. So staying at the wall, we're now going to do an exercise which starts to elongate and relax the quadriceps muscles of the thighs, which are often quite tight. Now to that end, we need something that's a little bit softer because our knee is going to go on the ground. So I've got a doubled up extra yoga mat here. And then you're going to need something soft like a yoga bolster or maybe just a cushion or a pair of rolled up socks against the wall. Okay? First things first, the left knee is going to be put on this softer surface here, with the left foot going up onto the equally soft surface here. And then from there, the right leg, we're just going to move it until the right foot is on the ground like so. And we can come up. Now you can see I'm not particularly close to the bolster, the cushion, and that's absolutely fine for now. You're going to feel an awful lot of stretch, and what you want to concentrate on more than anything else is that inward movement of the abdomen. This is essential. That creates a retroversion, which unfortunately creates more stretch on the thigh and therefore a little bit of discomfort, it has to be said. But far better the discomfort in the thigh than feeling it in the spine. That's the whole point of the retroversion, so that the spine is left as neutral as possible. So just spend a moment like so. And if it is sore under the knee here, then just double up the mat or whatever you've got underneath. And then we can just go to the other side. And I am going to double up this because it really is rather sore, and it is a type of discomfort that's totally pointless. So we're now going to have the right knee just a little in front of the cushion. Bring our left foot onto the ground, and then we come up like so and return to the lower abdomen and this retroversion. So the pubic bone is coming up towards the chin, the buttocks slide down to that lower knee. And if it's helpful, just take both hands and put it on those two spots of the torso. That's essentially what we're trying to do, level those 2 points out. And then you can just come out and go back to the first side. Now, if you didn't feel very much, and that's great news, what you can do is move the knee closer towards the bolster. You could also even have the knee right up in contact with the bolster. But take your time. If you don't know what your needs are, it's far better to take this slower. So wherever you are, whether you're right up against the bolster, which is my case. So if that's the case, then make sure that your heel against the wall is to the outside of your left hip. And then once more, you return back to this idea of the lower abdomen coming in, retroversion. And it's helpful also to press with the front foot. This allows for expanding and elongating up from the pelvis. And keep that retroversion going. This is so important for the protection of the back. Okay, and then you can just come and change sides. And it takes a lot of time to get that flexibility, that suppleness in the thighs going. So don't be impatient. This is very, very strong work in that back thigh. A lot of people find it almost intolerable. So work at your own pace. And in terms of the discomfort, exhale it out. Every now and then, try and do an incredible sigh that allows you to enter in a little deeper without resistance into that point of discomfort. And keep that retroversion going. Keep the pubic bone sliding up towards the chin. Allow the lower abdomen to move towards the spine, the solar plexus towards the head. Remember, if your knee is right up against the bolster, the cushion, then make sure your right heel is to the outside of your right hip. And remember to press against the left foot. That allows you to get closer towards the bolster without ruining the retroversion either. Okay, and we can just have a break in Vajrasana. Like so. So spend a moment Squeezing your thighs together. Squeezing the heels together if you can as well. This is a detail that's often overlooked in Vajrasana. The heels really need to be touching if at all possible. Lift the skin of the knees if they're disturbing you at all, if they've got a sensation of tightness about them. So we're going to stay on the theme of Vajrasana, but what I would like is to have the toes tucked under. So I'll just demonstrate on the side like so. So the inner feet are completely together, as are the ankles as well. So this idea of squeezing the thighs, the knees together, also helps in terms of maintaining their ankles as much in contact as possible. And from there, we can return back to the 2 points of our abdomen. Now this is really, really strong for some of us. There's a lot of elongation going at the bottom of the feet, but also a lot of widening as well. You consider that there's a lot of pressure on the base of the toes. So there's a real widening going between the base of the big toe and the base of the little toe. So whenever you need to come out, you just come out and go back into Vajrasana. In actual fact, we can just do that now. So this is a really, really wonderful exercise for keeping the feet healthy, especially regarding the arches of the feet, which are so essential for supporting our weight. So one more time, Vajrasana, or at least a variation of this position, by going on to the tippy toes. Squeezing the thighs, moving the ankles towards one another, feeling the contact between the two inner legs. And every inhalation is breathed into the feet themselves. And then you can come back into the normal Vajrasana. And I'd like to reincorporate that cactus that we did before into the variation of Vajrasana where the toes are tucked under. So let's go back. Squeeze the thighs, inner legs together. And then from there, we can do that cactus. I'm going to face around like so. And we can imagine the wall is still behind us. So as we move the hands, the forearms, the elbows, all in a straight line behind us, the chest moves forward, and everything is regulated by that lower abdomen. And this is very, very strong. Keep those thighs coming together. You're going to feel the feet, the toes. There's a lot of work going on there. But there's an equal amount of work happening with this chest extension. And then you can just come down back into Vajrasana normal. The feet flat on the ground. And then I want to do a variation from that, which involves using either a yoga belt, even better, an elastic. If you don't have one or the other, you could just simply use a belt from a dressing gown, for example. Okay? Now, if you're using an elastic, your hands will need to be slightly closer together. Otherwise, if you're using a normal belt, I would say probably have about a meter's distance between the hands. This is what we're going to do. And we're just going to bring the hands behind us and keeping the chest moving forward, the lower abdomen controlling everything. We're going to start to extend back as much or as little as we want. There's no need to bring the arm completely down, because the point of this is to understand the amount of strength that is required in the torso to manage this movement. Everyone thinks of the arms and the shoulders. Yeah, it's true. But feel the overall strength that the torso, the central part of the body, needs in order to handle this movement. It's really quite something. Okay, and just come down. Now, if that didn't feel like very much, you just simply move your hands closer together until such time as the work kickstarts. I'm going to move to the side one more time. This time we're going to do it, but with the toes tucked under. So the variation of that Vajrasana I was talking about. Make sure your little toes are trying to touch the floor. They might touch the floor, they might not, but we want to try and encourage them to move towards the ground. And then we'll do this one more time. So just bringing our arms back behind, as much or as little as we want. Feel that movement in the shoulders. Feel the solar plexus strongly moving up towards the head and leaving behind that lower abdomen, which regulates everything. Don't stop the breathing. And then when you bring the arms down like so, please don't collapse in any shape or form. This wonderful strength that you have created in the central part of your body. So we've looked at elongating the thighs, we've looked at toe work, and of course we've looked at expanding the chest. So we can put all these three elements into Virabhadrasana number 1, or at least with some little modifications, because all of these movements are very much required in this position. So to that end, we're going to get to the beginning of our mat. Feet parallel underneath the hips. And all I want is to simply bring the right foot forward like so, relatively unelegantly, lifting the back heel off the ground. Now, for all that, we want our hips to be square. So the tendency is to move the back leg hip back. Square up both hips and make sure the fronts of both legs are facing the same direction. Now you're wanting at least one of your legs' lengths distance between the 2 feet, although you might find that it's a relatively subjective instruction here, and you might find in the course of your practice that you want to play about with distances between the feet. Okay, and all I would like is sucking in that lower abdomen, bringing up the solar plexus. Leave the hands in these 2 points. And if you have problems with balance, push down the base of the big toe at the front. Okay, and all I want to do is just simply to bend both legs like so. So keeping the hips in line, you're going to feel or re-feel the stretch of the thigh that we worked at before. You can feel that there's a certain amount of strength required in the torso. And of course, the back toe is doing what we did in that modified Vajrasana a moment ago. Put your hands on your hips and move the elbows back, and what you'll find is that the chest goes forward. Alternatively, you can actually put the cactus in, which is what we did a moment ago. I don't have a lot of room on one side, but nonetheless it works quite well. So as I move my hands back, the chest moves forward. And then I can just bring my hands back on my hips and bring that back leg forward and change sides. Left foot forward. And then you can start to bend both legs, observing the symmetry between both hips, observing the fact that both fronts of the legs are facing the same direction. Feel the work in the back toes. Feel that stretch happening in the right thigh. And finally, feel the strength emerging in the torso, particularly when we put our hands in the cactus. Lower abdomen sucking in strongly. And then you can bring your hands down, back onto the hips, come forward. And we're going to put our bottom against the wall, walk our feet forward, the distance between the feet and the wall, about 40 or 50 centimeters. Bend your legs slightly, exhale, and just come forward. Do at least one sigh, and let out any of the pent-up tension that maybe started to occur during this kind of practice with Virabhadrasana I, or variations around the theme of Virabhadrasana I, I should say. And then put your hands on to your hips. On the next inhalation, bring your solar plexus forward. Press strongly on the base of the big toe, the base of the little toe, as you come back up. And we'll do that exercise again. This time though, we'll start off with both legs bent, and slowly but surely we'll start to straighten the back leg. Let's go. Right leg forward. You'll probably need more distance between the feet for this. So come and bend quite generously both your legs. Your front knee is over the ankle. Square up the hips, the elbows are brought back behind. And then if you wish, if you can, even just partially, start to straighten that back leg. And maybe incorporate the cactus idea if you're not too tired. Regulate your breathing. And then place your hands back on your hips. You can straighten that front leg a little bit, and then move the back leg forward and come out. And let's try the other side. So start with both legs bent. Get the symmetry the way you want it. Use the back toes strongly against the ground. Feel the 2 points of your torso. And then cactus of the arms as you start to suck in the right foot into the right hip. And you don't have to straighten the leg completely. And then bring your hands back onto your hips. Straighten the front leg a little bit. Move the back leg forward. And then come back into Uttanasana. With a nice exhalation, come down. So remember, your bottom is strongly in contact with the wall. The feet are quite a distance apart. Legs gently bent. And every now and then just let out a wonderful sigh to let go.